So anyway, welcome everybody, and an enormous amount of work has been done since this time last year, as you will learn in just a moment, but we couldn't be meeting at a better moment for a yearning for a better business, a blueprint for better business. Police are in the boardroom at Tesco. The fines that have been dished out in the time, even since we last met, amount to the many billions, and the climate is extremely well set, I think, to receive the thoughts of what are going to emerge here today. And indeed, we've got many, many people who are adding to the list of people that were here last time who are very keen to support us. So let me introduce immediately Charles Wookey, who's the acting chief executive of Blueprint Trust, and Loughlin Hickey, also trustee of the Blueprint Trust.
Thank you, John, very much for that. On behalf of Loughlin and myself, you're very, very welcome to today's conference. My name is Charles Wookey, and as John said, I'm the acting CEO of a new charity, the Blueprint Trust. With my colleague, Loughlin, I'd like to introduce who we are and what we do. But first of all, why are we all here? Because I suggest that we all accept that there's a clear need to challenge business to help create a better society for all, and in so doing, to create more sustainable businesses. The market economy, as John just alluded to, is still reeling from the financial crisis and subsequent scandals. As the Bank of England commented only this week on a report you may have seen into market trading, albeit an extreme case, but the quote there was, it's not just a few bad apples, it's actually the barrel in which they're operating. But there's also a very clear opportunity. Many business leaders see the potential for change and have been working hard to deliver it. Many people want to bring their values as well as their time to work. They want to see the private sector thrive, but in a way that better serves society long term. And in the UK today, that means in an ageing society, faced with major stresses of rising inequality and under severe public expenditure constraints. Well, but how? Law, regulation, the environment, the structure of capital markets, these, of course, all matter. But for Blueprint, the focus and the heart of it is on the human person. What is it that a business culture does to people, for good or ill? What does it inspire and enable? And what does it suppress or deny in people? And the key way in which we think about that is through a focus on purpose. Now, what do we mean by purpose? Well, a few years ago, I was at a lecture being given by a French academic called Philippe de Woot. So if those of you who are French here would forgive my rather bad French accent, but he gave this lecture in English. He said, the key question is, what is purpose? In English, the word purpose means so many things. It's not clear. In French, we have a word. It's finalité. So the question is, what is the finalité of business? So I look up the word finalité in an English dictionary, and I found raison d'être. You don't have a word for it. So what's the raison d'être of business? We believe that the true purpose of business is to solve problems and meet needs. Profit is the result and not the purpose. Now, at this time last year, we were developing a set of actionable principles for business based on this idea of purpose, and drawing on a rich provenance of wisdom, including from philosophy and faith traditions. We produced a framework to guide decision-taking. And we've developed significantly since then. Over the last 12 months, shaping the ideas with UK multinationals and others, many in this room, we've come up with 5 principles of a purpose-driven business. And we formed a group to take that work forward. But who are we? And what is this group? There's a Blueprint Trust. It's a new charity, newly formed with 4 trustees. Loughlin is one of them, with Sue Garrard from Unilever, Andrea Ponti, and Barbara Stocking. Funded from charitable foundations, it's not a membership organisation, and it draws on many communities, including business, NGOs, philanthropy, and faith, but is dominated by none of them. Our aim is to catalyse an independent movement of purpose-led business. Delivering business purpose, though, depends on people. It depends on competence and on character. And here we see a crucial link between the personal and the corporate. Earlier this year, Mark Carney spoke of compartmentalization of our lives, the division of our lives, as he put it, into different realms, each with its own set of rules. My view is similar. Many people feel that they're living a compartmentalized or divided life, as if they're expected to hang up some of their values with their coat on the way into the office. So imagine a business where the employees, consumers, and suppliers are all treated with dignity and respect, and that cultivating those relationships brings a fair return to investors, where social purpose runs from the core of an organization to every arm of the business, and where it's integrated from the start and not siloed into separate CSR programs or policies. More than this, we believe that simply as human beings, we all have a need to feel connected, to know that we're contributing to something bigger than ourselves, to connect in some way to a worthwhile purpose. And what's interesting is that if you look at behavioral economics, neuroscience, positive psychology, as well as the rich sources that come from faith and philosophy, there's an increasing consensus that to be human is more than to be simply self-interested. We all actually, just as people, have a deep need for relationships with others. And there are also common goods that only arise through the commitments that people make to one another, such as the family, such as communities, such as good organizations. We know that the energy and creativity that fosters innovation often comes from the desire for joy and fulfillment in making a positive difference to the world. So the Blueprint movement is encouraging business to harness the energy of being purpose-driven with the personal commitments of people feeling valued and contributing to something worthwhile. And hence our own statement of purpose, which is uniting corporate purpose and personal values to serve society. Our 5 principles of purpose-driven business were brought to Davos by Paul Polman in January this year, and they've already been used by major companies and SMEs to challenge their purpose, programs, and behaviour. In recent months, Loughlin and I have been to meetings with a number of chairs and CEOs of major companies to get their reaction and to test these principles out, really. And I'd like to ask Loughlin now to say something about what we've learned from those meetings, many of which we both attended. Loughlin.
Thank you, Charles. As you can imagine, Charles does the jokes in the meetings and I just play the straight man. So that's how it works. But as he said, we spent a lot of this year testing the principles and framework, not just with major companies, but other interested groups. Those in responsible business, those in academia and in the media. In fact, many of you are in the room today. Now, the discussions brought out some very clear messages. But also, as you imagine, we do get some challenges, and we want to talk through those. The very clear messages are there is a need, and indeed there's a desire to talk about where is the humanity in business? How does it affect people's lives, both within the business and outside? Also, a clear purpose, the why of business, if you like, can be a powerful connector between business and the people it needs support from to be sustainable. That's the employees, suppliers, customers, citizens, and indeed investors. And also a recognition that this is a journey. It's a journey to recapture the good that business can provide. But that journey requires both challenge and indeed support from within the business and also from outside. And whilst that journey continues, there is a need for a credible body with the remit to be the mirror by which a business and others can reflect on a business's accountability and indeed its progress. A mirror, but not a regulator. What has been amazing as we've met CEOs and chairmen together, and others in business, are the pent-up emotions and energy within the business community. In some, there is a huge fear of further criticism of the past, and indeed, what may yet emerge. One CEO of a large insurance company that I went to, he spoke of going to meetings with his peers and sitting in dismay as they concluded, we've lost the fight to rebuild trust, the best we can do is comply. And this fear means either companies are paralyzed into inaction or even afraid to talk about the positive things that are happening to shift the business. just in case that drew another attack. And in others, there is a frustration that they cannot achieve more. More than one company has said to us that what they were concerned about is the best they could do was to make their company better or less harmful. And that just wasn't enough in view of the issues society faced that they believe business could help with. They want to go from making their business, or indeed their industry sector, better, to raising the standards that all businesses are judged by. That means changing the conversation, changing it from business is inherently just about money and needs to be controlled, to one where it is, how good can business be in making a positive contribution to our lives? The Blueprint movement can help release the fear and frustration and indeed connect the energy. Now, quite rightly, as I said, Charles and I get some challenges. It's not all cups of tea and slaps on the back. There are some questions we get as we talk about the Blueprint. And here's some of the common questions we get asked. So, Charles, I buy the need for an independent body, but what makes you so independent?
So the answer to that is that we are independent from all stakeholder groups, from business, from faith, from regulators, from NGOs. We're independent constitutionally, as I mentioned earlier, and in fact our constitution requires us to set up an advisory council, which we will be doing in coming months, drawing from various sectors of society with no one constituency in the majority. We're funded from charitable foundations and not from members' fees or commercial activity. And the provenance of the principles and framework come from society rather than from business. The chairman, Loughlin, of one of the banks that we went to, you remember, asked me, he said, Charles, what's the relationship between this and the Catholic Church? Which is a good question and a fair question. The origin of the Blueprint for Better Business is when a group of business leaders came to see the Catholic Archbishop of Westminster, Vincent Nichols, who's here today. They did that because they felt that Catholic social teaching as a way of thinking offered something very powerfully helpful. What's happened is that the provenance of that, using that wisdom, but also other faith traditions and other sources of learning as well, has led to what we've been able to be produced. The chairman of that bank then said to me, as you remember, he said, fine, if this is, you're saying that this is faith-enabled but not faith-led, it's not about religion. He said, I'm very happy with that. He said, I like that. I like the fact that this came from society rather than was made up by business itself. So that's the answer to that question. So Loughlin, in return, a couple of questions that we've been asked that I'd like you to just reflect on. We asked, how does this fit in with my own programs in our business? How does taking on this blueprint fit in with our own purpose journey and our own statements of values and mission? And also we're involved externally in a lot of other initiatives as well. So why should we do this too?
So you see how these meetings go. Charles gets the easy questions and I get the difficult ones. And our view is it fits very well with internal programs. The blueprint is not a replacement. And it's important that a company owns its own purpose and in its own language. But the blueprint and principles and framework are an independent external source by which existing programs can be challenged and perhaps better aligned to an effective purpose. And also, some CEOs say to us that the reason they like the independent external challenge is they're not as all-powerful as people think they are. And it's useful to have a positive force from outside that actually adds to their voice so that they can help their people go on the journey they need to go on. And in terms of other external initiatives, Blueprint doesn't seek to supplant existing indicators of positive action, such as the UN Global Compact. It does go further, however, because it asks business to reflect on and act on what it is that makes them good within society. And it asks businesses to set out for itself the actions that will evidence pursuit of that purpose. It asks companies to go beyond compliance, but not alone. In the company of others who want to demonstrate the positive role that all businesses can play in contributing to that common good. The independence of blueprints, the focus on purpose, and the humanity of business, and all of the underlying sources connect business with wider society. This unites business and society to a common cause. And it provides a society lens to allow people in a business to reflect on the worth of the activities that are going on in their own business. So it's supportive rather than supplanting. So Charles, I can see the society lens actually can help reinforce what I'm trying to do. But let me put this to you. There are many organisations talking about responsible business. What's so different about Blueprint?
Well, you're right. There are many excellent organisations and initiatives, both promoting and assisting on a practical level to help business. And I'm delighted, actually, that a lot of them are here today. And we seek to work in collaboration with them and not in competition. We're not about CSR or SRI. We're not producing an index or focused on community engagement. The Blueprint focuses on the why, on the core fundamental question of why a business exists, and it provides in that way, through our principles and framework, an overarching narrative for a lot of other initiatives which do excellent work on the how, or how you put things into effect. So the Blueprint can help challenge consistency, it can help remove silo thinking, and it can help businesses to see in a more integrated way how these initiatives can help one another. Loughlin, there's one other question actually that I was just thinking about that we've also been asked, that it might be worth just replaying, which is what teeth do we have? And I think that's a good question, to which the answer is the Blueprint has deliberately not been set up as a compliance organisation. The companies that commit to the Blueprint are making a public commitment to their employees, to their consumers, to their suppliers, and to society at large, that they will be held accountable to them, by their actions in aligning to the framework and delivering it over time. So that's our main answer. We also do own the IP, by the way, and would have the power to withdraw it if we felt that was ever necessary. So there's some of the questions that we've faced and some of the answers that we've given. So what do we actually do? Well, we do three things. We challenge, we coach, and we connect. We challenge by asking stimulating questions of business of all sizes through the 5 principles and the framework, and these are in your packs, by the way, and I would encourage you to read them. We see these as a standard for all businesses. We are already working with a number of multinationals whose employees in total reach over 300,000 and in turnover over 95 billion. And we're working with SMEs through a pilot program in London, and you'll also hear from Alex, a small business owner, on the business panel. Through this, we're catalysing a movement of purpose-led business. So we challenge. But as well as challenging, we coach. Now, let me be clear. We're not, as I said, setting up a consultancy or taking any money for providing coaching services. We are a critical distance from business. But we know how important it is to use effective coaching to help with a significant change prompted by our business principles. So building on a pilot 2-day immersion course we did in Oxford last April, this next year we will be putting on a number of immersion courses, both for people in business who are seeking to implement the principles and also for coaches. We want to build a network of coaches who deeply understand and connect with the work of Blueprint and can help guide its implementation. Finally, we connect. We achieve this by growing a network to talk, listen, support, and challenge each other on the journey of purpose-driven business. Now, the network takes several forms. We have a network of CEOs. We connect chairmen to encourage discussion. We partner with investors, with academia, to contribute to the body of knowledge on purpose-driven business. And we connect companies, NGOs, unions, investors, academics, faith groups, and philosophers to that body of research and to one another. And that is why it is so good to see here today such a cross-section of people from different sectors of society representing all of those who I've just said. And there's more information on all the work streams that we're working on in your packs and on display today. Blueprint is incredibly privileged to have such a lot of talented people who have generously given voluntary time and expertise to help. And the energy that inspiration brings is infectious and inspiring. So your challenge today, if I may say, is about exploring together with us some of the insights and challenges of putting purpose into practice. We're incredibly fortunate to have so many distinguished speakers, and we're very grateful to them and indeed to John Snow for chairing today. So I'd ask everyone here to listen to the leaders from business, from faith, from academia, listen open and honestly to the message of purpose-driven business. I hope you enjoy the day, and that by the end of the conference, you will feel encouraged to join the movement. Thank you.